All right, now we're live for sure, dude.
Okay, sounds
All
good.
right, awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, man. Nice to meet you. Also, haven't really got
You
to
too.
meet you, so I appreciate it. Where are you at right now? Where do you live?
So I'm actually back at my house trying to get it ready to rent out. So I'm in Ogden, Utah.
Oh,
Um,
okay,
yeah, yeah. I've sunk probably 12 to $15,000 into medical bills in the last 5 months. So I'm actually gonna just rent out my basement and rent my whole house out and just go into the van full time is the game plan. Now that the weather should start cooling down a little bit, and my house flooded last year, so I've been remodeling the basement. So that's pretty much done, and so really I just need to pack all my stuff up and rent this sucker out. So yeah, back
yeah,
home for a little bit.
awesome. How long have you been doing the van stuff for? How long have you had that van?
I've had it since 2020. I started living in it right away while I was like, because I was living in another van prior to purchasing this one. And I had a really good family friend up in Logan. Her name's Natasha. She's like, and I always grew up with her kids, and she had a basement. So I basically like put a mattress on the floor and renovated the van in her driveway while I was living out of the other van. And like painted the whole thing, gutted the inside, and built it up. And then I lived out of it for about a little over 2 years until I had saved up enough money to buy my house. Then I did that, moved into the house for a bit, and then I've been like off and on in the van since then.
Nice.
Uh, yeah,
And I know you were again listening to Greg with you and Greg on Rock's Life. You said that you were a firefighter at one point.
yeah, for about 4 years, about five if you count all the training process and everything, which I don't. Like, I wasn't hired yet, so I didn't consider myself a firefighter, but I worked full time fire and EMS as like an advanced EMT, and then as a firefighter until February of last year or March of last year in 2023. Before I decided to step away and coach full time, like for Hyrox and Decafit and Spartan and such. I have some triathletes as well, and mountain bikers because that's my background, um, and also race full time. Uh, but yeah, it hasn't been the smoothest. Definitely hasn't been the smoothest road since then. But I'm trying to keep that dream alive a little bit, but we'll see how it goes.
Was that so? The fire was that with a city or was that wildland?
It was a city, so I worked for like five cities. It was a metro district, so it was called South Davis Metro. It was like all of the five of the cities closest to Salt Lake on the north side. I covered all of those.
Nice. Um, yeah, with your so I think anybody that's followed you has been following along with your with the medical stuff. You're still any any breakthroughs there? Getting any closer? Any answers? Or how's that going?
Not really, to be honest. I've seen about six pulmonologists. I went all the way to Denver for a couple of weeks, and actually two different times to try and get into National Jewish, which is one of the leading respiratory hospitals in the nation. They have this guy, his name's Dr. Olin, Todd Olin. He specializes in vocal cord disorder, where like your vocal cords don't open up all the way. And so they're constantly constricted during exercise, so you can't get air in. So I went there and, got like the camera down the nose looking at my vocal cords while I was on the bike and while I was on the treadmill. I've probably done like 20 to 30 PFT tests, which pulmonary function tests at this point. Um, I've changed the way that I ate for a while, did like no coffee, all this stuff to see if it was like acid reflux or silent acid reflux, to see if that was causing it. Um, Nothing has really helped, um, minus potentially some breathing exercises that I was given at this hospital because they didn't see my vocal cords constrict like they normally do. Um, they think it might be lower down where my my trachea is actually collapsing on itself because the wall isn't strong enough. And so when
Oh,
I breathe in, and just like at rest sometimes, but especially under hard exercise, it actually the wall gets like sucked in more. So basically, like your trachea is like this, and it's got these hard rings of cartilage on the outside. And they think the back of my trachea is like the wall is actually sucking in and turning it into a narrower straw because it's not strong enough. But they weren't able to confirm that either in the breathing exercises they gave me for that. I've had them work about 3 workouts out of. Sorry, someone called me, so I think it messed with it.
all right. You're good.
Um, I've I've had it worked. Like I've had 3 good workouts or 4 good workouts total in the last 5 months. So a lot of them were in the last 2 weeks, like 3 of them were. The rest have just been like just trying to maintain some sort of fitness. Most days I am limited by respiration. Like I just my heart rate won't even come up because I can't. I don't know. I can't breathe enough, and like it's always funny when I've kind of stopped talking about it just because people want to help, right? And so they'll say things like, "Have you ever considered acid reflux, or have you ever considered uh, changing your diet or cutting out dairy or things like that?" And I'm like they're just trying to be nice, right? And
Sure.
I think it's awesome that we have such a supportive community. But also, like, I'm the kind of guy that literally does a deep dive. And it's frustrating because lots of the hospital appointments, I have like a small medical background. I'm not saying I'm a doctor or anything, but I'll show up to an appointment and a doctor will tell me something and I'll be like, but doesn't it work this way? Like, why would that make sense? Like, if it happens, like, for instance, if sometimes I get really dizzy and lightheaded and I'll pass out. And like I understand if you breathe too quickly and you breathe off too much CO2, that's like a really common side effect. And I'm like, but I'm not breathing quickly. I'm not breathing too much out. Like it's really strange. So I'm like, and sometimes they like, it took them a long time to even order like a ferritin test or an iron test, which I feel like is a super base level thing to do if someone is uh, experiencing lightheadedness or dizziness, which I do take an iron supplement now, but and eat a ton of red meat. Like I'm trying to hit red meat every day, and then like vitamin C as well with it, so it absorbs better, and also a healthy fat with it, like all the stuff. Because like I'm trying to do everything. Like I've
Right.
dumped a ton of money into this. I know what I'm capable of, but it's like I'm just in a cage right now. My
Um,
body won't let me.
well, with people making suggestions, I have or a saying things. I guess I have another one for you to see it,
Mm.
just because I've been curious. I know you said you were mountain biking. That's your thing. Did you ever do any road cycling?
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
you
What
you
the
you
first time it happened, I was road cycling actually. Just an easy, like easy zone 2 session.
so did you watch the Mark Cavendish documentary?
Uh which one? Because I have watched some of his on YouTube, but I don't think I've seen is it like a Netflix one or something?
Yeah, yeah. Netflix documentary, and I don't know if the YouTube ones covered it, but on the Netflix one, he uh, he was, I don't know if the right word's suffering, but he had a form of Epstein Barr. Have you read about this at all?
No, I haven't.
So
I'll have to look into that.
so he and I could be misremembering some of this also. I've been trying to read about it the last few days and read more about it. And before I talk to you, because I didn't want to say something stupid. But anyways, he started having, and sorry, the other reason is because for the past few months I've been having these same issues that you're talking about, these exact same things. And then I remembered reading or watching the documentary about Mark Cavendish, and he's one of my favorite athletes ever. So, anyways, the way that I'm remembering it or understanding it is that once his heart rate got above a certain heart rate, he would just plummet and he couldn't pull out of it. So that was why if you were following the tour at all for a while, he had to he didn't race and he thought his career was over, like done. He couldn't do anything. And in that documentary, it goes into just depression, you know, and everything else that comes with not being able to exercise or fitness. So as I was, and again, I'm gonna rewatch it again today. But then there's the Epstein Barr can go. It says in some cases it could lead to
Myocarditis.
Yeah.
Yeah, like an enlargement of well, from what I understand, is like typically it's the left ventricle that gets too large. But then the walls are like they're thick, and this happens in athletes a lot, like people who exercise a lot. From what I understand, is like those walls thicken because it's a muscle, like your heart's a muscle, it's
Right.
contracting and pumping blood, right? Doof 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 doof, like you're obviously squeezed down from the atrium down into the ventricle, and then it pumps it back up, and then left ventricle is the big one though. So I do have an enlarged left ventricle. They haven't diagnosed me with myocarditis. They said it's like it's large, which is good for an athlete typically. Like that's normal. Your body naturally like becomes more muscular in the heart when you pump in a lot of blood. But what I think the difference is with myocarditis is when those walls become thick, but then they're not as pliable, so they can't squeeze. So it's like a bigger chamber. I think I'm either making myself sound like an idiot. It's been a while since I've gone over
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
but like I think what that is when your walls become thick, but they're not pliable. So it tries to squeeze, but it doesn't squeeze all the way. It just squeezes. It can only squeeze a little bit because they're too thick, almost like brittle is how I would describe it.
Okay.
And so you get a lot of like pooling. And your blood actually doesn't circulate as well, and then I think it also can lead to like blood clots and stuff. If anytime your heart isn't pumping very well, or you have like AFib, like atrial fibrillation, where it just constantly little squeezes, that usually can put you at risk for clots as well.
Yeah. I saw in one of the other things that it said was throat inflammation also. So again,
Huh.
I am far from being a medical expert. And then, as you know, you start reading stuff on the internet, you can find things that support or, you know,
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
you, whatever it is that you're trying to, confirmation bias basically. But no, well, first of all, I've been following this thing with you, just what you put out, because I want to see you race again. And then, again, the last few months, I mean, for example, like I rotate through different routes around the city. So I know pretty much exactly where I should be within about 10 seconds or so. And, I mean, I've lost about 5 minutes on my 10K, a couple minutes on my 5K, and it's only happening.
Man.
It's only happening when my heart rate gets up around like 150, 155.
Yeah. 155 is where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
150 to 155.
yeah. Well, and
Um,
you're younger than me, so Jesus, that
yeah.
should be. And I just did another VO2 test. I know I think I've asked you about that in messages before, and I understand how you feel about that. But it was weird because it said my aerobic capacity was still 100%, and the only thing that had changed for me was since the beginning of the year, I started doing all of the zone 2 stuff and trying that out, and freaking
Yep.
hated it, man, hated it, and started taking in more carbs because I was mostly keto before, and then, like I said, dude, I had my best Hyrox race in May in LA, and I and again based off of time, about a 3-minute PR. A week later, that was it, dude. Couldn't pull it back in. I haven't been able to reel that thing back in since. It's but okay, another question. Are you able to, say with like a Metcon and all that, are you able to power through those, or is it affecting you the same way as the running?
It depends on the day. Also, I honestly had like a brain fart. Myocarditis, like anytime a word ends in itis, typically it's like inflammation related. I think it's actually the inflammation of like you have chronic inflammation around your heart, and that can give you shortness of breath and chest pain and like just decreased ability to exercise basically. I think it's actually from typically like viral infections or
Yeah.
bacterial. So that's my bad. I described that completely wrong. It's been a while for me. So,
Well,
but yeah, I was
the way
like, wait a second, that's something else. Yeah,
no, the way
that's
that you explain,
cardiomegaly. I think is what that's called when your heart is like too large and it won't squeeze. I think that's like cardiomegaly or something.
well, the way that you explained it though is part what I'm remembering reading about it is similar to what how you explained it with uh with the shortness of breath and everything else. Maybe not the brittle part. I hadn't heard that part, but everything else
Yeah.
that you said was pretty similar. But yeah, you were going to say depending on the day as far as the Metcons went.
Yeah, so like sometimes there's been a couple days in the last 2 weeks where I actually got super excited because I get back from this hospital in Denver. I really like I spent so much money to go there and really didn't get any concrete answers. They basically what I got is like, try this, we think this is what it is, like another one of those,
Mm-hmm.
which I've had six different things from six different doctors said, you know. And so I've been trying those and I had a couple good sessions and I was like, okay, maybe I can like come back, maybe I can race Amsterdam. And in the last 3 or 4 days, it's just been like a giant huck off a cliff, like I'm just falling. Um, and I'm supposed to have a run workout today, and we'll see how it goes. But sometimes I can like during a metcon, I'll feel okay as long as I have long enough rest periods to like bring my breathing back under control.
Mm-hmm.
But typically, like I've been doing metcon training since I was almost 13, actually,
Yeah.
um, which is wild, and that's one reason where like I don't understand like why God would lead me in this path of like I've literally been doing circuit training and metcon since I was 13 because my soccer team got sponsored by this company that like he claimed to invent circuit training. I don't know if he actually did, but it was when, you know, it's like 13, 14 years ago I started doing metcons, and loved it. And so, and I've always kept up with that because that's what I was taught early on. So my heart rate actually doesn't really skyrocket anymore in metcons, hardly ever, unless I'm like pinning it. And so, and typically if I'm pinning it, I'll only do like sections of 3 to 5 minutes and then I'll have like a 2 or 3 minute recovery. And sometimes I can make it work for that. And then other days I'm literally just like locked out. I can't, like I just feel weak all
Yeah.
day. Do you get brain fog as well? I get brain fog
Oh yeah.
sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
cannot think straight.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's like I'm not myself.
Yes. And you're only 28, 29, right? How old are you?
I'm 26 actually.
So keep a notepad around, man, because the I even in my phone, I'm constantly if I if I'm working out or if I'm drawing or I'm tattooing or whatever, and I remember that I'm supposed to call somebody, I won't say, "Oh, okay, I need to call that person after I finish this." I stop what I'm doing and I take a note and write it down because it's out the door, man. And I'm sure, or I would think that with you coaching people and having different conversations with a bunch of different people, emails, texts, phone calls, and all of that, dude, it's not going to get any better, whether it's a medical condition or not. And then on top of that, with your own personal thoughts and goals and everything else that you're trying to navigate through, you get, or in my experience, you get overwhelmed, because you're trying to find this balance of your responsibility to your clients, your friends, your family. But and then at the end of the day, you're like, shit, what did I do for myself? What did I do? Did I run? Did I exercise? And then again, this is just from my experience, that kind of spirals to the next day, and then you're playing catch up. And then for me, I'll be setting up for a workout, but then I'll be thinking about like a roast. I got to draw. I got to get to work. I got to do this. And then I'm like, shit, I can't work out thinking about this, because then I feel selfish. So
Yep.
it's, dude, it's a wild thing. So then you throw this medical condition, or whatever we want to call it, on top of that. And then that's just all consuming, right? Because you're not you. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to, you're in a sense the pinnacle. Your clients are looking at you like, I want to see what he's doing. The proof, your logic, your methodology, or whatever you want to call it, is proven through your level of fitness, right? Your
Yeah.
results from your races. People want to be coached by you because of your results.
Yes.
Obviously you've proven that you know what you're talking about, but yeah, man. But anyways, the brain fog thing, it's I've tried these mind games, those numbers, the crosswords, the reading these things, and just to keep. I haven't done all the friggin' whatever the On It Joe Rogan pills are for your brain.
Oh,
I haven't done all of it. I haven't went down that rabbit hole, but yeah, it's yes. Sorry, I rambled on there, man. But yeah, my wife has a calendar, and I have all my appointments in my phone. I've got all of that, and dude, wait till you have kids. Wait till you get going. If I have one thing to give you advice on that you haven't experienced yet, is the kid thing, and starting that routine now, like starting the note taking, the schedules, and just being on top of shit, man, because it's not going to get any easier.
yeah. Thankfully, my brain fog hasn't been constant. There's been a couple days where it lasted a long time. But for instance, this last Sunday, I was at church, and I actually led singing for a bit. And when I sing, it's weird. When I have long conversations like this, I can actually feel my throat getting fatigued, just like when I'm in a workout. And then also when I sing, the same thing happens, which typically would like point me towards some sort of vocal cord issue, I would imagine, but they didn't find anything for sure. They just think it might be that. And I had a camera down my throat while I was exercising like 5 different times. But anyways, like typically it's actually fairly often it's right after instances like that where I'll just feel woozy, like lightheaded, and I'll experience like really extreme brain fog. And it's really embarrassing to me because I've always been a very self-sufficient, very driven and motivated young man. And it's embarrassing to me. And then also like with my clients, during that window of like an hour to 3 hours, it's like I forget everything. If I'm hanging out with my girlfriend, then typically I end up, I just kind of like shut down. Like she'll ask me a question, or someone will ask me a question, and it's like processing the question is what's difficult. And then I'll lay down for a little bit. Like I've even tried like beet juice. I've been trying all kinds of stuff. Like I take really good care of myself, like very much like whole foods, very little processed, inflammatory causing sugary foods, like really not that much. And I've cut back even more. So a lot of these things that typically are associated with brain fog, I don't really put in my body.
Right.
So it's really confusing to me, but sometimes it takes like an hour, sometimes it takes 30 minutes or 10 minutes of laying down, and then I kind of like come back to life and I feel like myself again. But yeah, thankfully it's not like a constant thing as much for me, but I'll get like these small windows where I'm just like, everything feels overwhelming because I can't process through it. It's really strange.
Is it almost like like an out of body experience, to where it's like you're watching yourself, and it's
Yeah,
like
a little bit.
you have the remote control, you're trying to get it going, but the battery's dead or something? Is it that kind of a feeling?
Uh, I think it's more just like when you're trying to get your computer to like run something and it's too much for the computer and it just gives you the little circle wheel of death. Just
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're just processing right now. We don't know what's going on. It's not working. It's more like that. When I don't know how to describe it. Like one time I was rock climbing with my girlfriend and I wasn't like zero exercise that day almost. Like super chill day. It was a recovery day because the day before was so bad. Um, and so we decided to go rock climbing and which is like a normal thing for us. So I walk up to the wall and like an hour in or a half hour in. Again, it's embarrassing because like going rock climbing, typically you want to spend like at least an hour to 2 hours at the wall. And I'm on my second route and I'm just like, I don't think I should lead that right now because I'm feeling kind of strange. And then sure enough, uh, like hiking down. I was just kind of sat down a couple times because I had passed out the day before and the day before that, or gotten really close. So this time I was like, I'm not gonna fall on a mountain because it was a pretty
Yeah.
techie trail. So I just like whenever I felt dizzy, I'd just sit down and we just like slowly walked because when you climb outside, typically you have the approach, so you have to hike up to the wall. And so
Hmm.
this one was a little bit farther than normal, and uh, it's just kind of embarrassing because typically like no one waits for me,
Right.
but I have been waited on so much. Like I never remember being waited on this much, and like having to ask someone to be patient with me and like, hey, I'm not feeling really good right now. Like I don't know if I can do this. And that is a huge kick in the balls to your ego for sure. Or at least like I feel like it is. I haven't really experienced that in that way very often.
Yeah, that I actually had that written down as one of the things I wanted to ask you. With ego, with with the ego thing, you're obviously you're recognizing this feeling that you're having before it happens, whether it's for safety of yourself or safety of your friends, especially when you're rock climbing.
Yeah.
Um, and the the ego, the ego, like I hear people talk about you have to put your ego aside. If you have to call it, you have to do these things. But when is it ego or just trying to find out like maybe today's the day that I'm actually going to have a breakthrough, or do you think that some people can also use the, well, I'm not going to let my ego get in the way of stopping this workout because I feel a certain way? I hope I'm asking that question right. um,
I think I
um,
understand.
and like almost using it, and I know you're not, but using it as an excuse, using it as like, I listened to this podcast and they said I need put my ego aside, slow down, and you don't need to push that hard all the time. I always wonder, because I have always pushed myself pretty. It sounds like we started doing the same things around the same time, except I'm 15, shit, I'm almost 20 years older than you, dude. But and this is the first time I've experienced these exact same things that you're saying. So when I go out and I try to just smash myself and find out where I'm at that day, and then of course you have your different recovery days, active recovery days, and whatever the case may be. But I've the last couple months I've had that same thing where it's like trying to get over this hill, trying to not be upset with myself, trying to be okay with it, but then wondering like how long do I let this go on for, like before I have to change up my whole program, or do I even do the last couple of days just accepting, which I can't, I'm not going to, but accepting that maybe it's a new chapter in my fitness. Like I'm not going to be able to race, I'm not going to, you know James was asking me yesterday when James Kelly was asking me yesterday when I'm going to race again, and I said, well, I'm signed up for Dallas, but if I feel the way that I feel right now, I'm there's no point in me spending that money to go out there, man. And
Yeah.
so when is Amsterdam? Amsterdam's coming up.
I think it's like 7 weeks or something like that. It's the second weekend, I believe, of October. Um, And I'm glad we talked, man. It makes me feel a lot less alone. I, for me, it started happening in March. Actually, 2 days before I went to the ER for the first time, or the only time, I guess. I had just landed like a great job in Dubai. I was making a good amount of money. They were supporting me to race. The Dubai Police is a great professional organization, and I got the opportunity to work for them for a bit. Um, and 2 days before, I had like a lifetime PR in a workout. I ran like 5 minute miles with 2 minute float at 8 minute pace in a row. And the day before that, I had a 54 minute, or sorry, 2 days before that, I had a 54-minute Hyrox sim, uh, running on an assault runner, which I hate. Um, with instead of running like 1,000 meters, I ran I think 1,050 or 1,100 to make up for the not having a rock zone.
Yeah.
And I was pushing my own sled around every time I had to turn around because it didn't, like when you do the sled pull in a sim, if you only have one rope, you gotta like push the thing around.
Right.
I was the fittest I had ever been for Hyrox. I was like, I want to win world champs. Uh, and I have never actually focused on Hyrox until leading up to that block. And then 2 days later, I was on a recovery ride in the desert, and an hour in, just started feeling my throat like I couldn't take a full deep breath without coughing. Um, and since that day, I have never been the same. It was acute. That's the thing, is like a lot of people are suggesting like these chronic conditions, and that's what doesn't make sense to me. Is it was like a light switch.
Yeah.
Like within 20 minutes, I have never been the same person. I went from feeling like I could literally annihilate almost anybody, or just about anybody. I was like, I think I was 84, 85 kilos, so I bulked up a bit, and I was still running faster than I've seen really many people run in Hyrox. I think I might still have the fastest 8K split. Um,
Wait, sorry.
but
What is 85 kilos, dude? I tried to
oh, sorry. Like
180,
approaching. I think it's approaching 190.
190. Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. A lot of the guys in Hyrox are not from the US, so I
I
just like
know.
compare
I
with
know.
that. So
I know.
82, I think, is 180, and then it's 2.2 is it about the conversion. So 85 should put me almost like between 185 and 190 is where I was floating.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, just like felt super strong. Strength numbers were up. I was still running really fast. I would have been slower in the mountains just because I was pretty large. Um, but yeah, I 2 days before that happened, I was the fittest I had ever been in my life. Like no adverse symptoms, nothing was bothering me really. And then 2 days later, it was just I've never been the same. And so it has definitely really, it's been so long. It's been 5 months now. Um, and I've only had maybe for 4 months, I had zero glimpses of who I used to be.
Hmm.
In the last month, I've gotten about three that were like 90% of my normal, where I ran like, that same workout I ran at 5:35 pace instead of 5 minute pace, but that's like, I still feel kind of fast. Um, and so it's gotten to the point, and especially in those 4 months where I was just like, I don't remember what it's like to feel like Rylan anymore. Um, and that's really hard to explain to people, especially who haven't known you prior to this event happening. Like for instance, I met my girlfriend right after it happened when I moved back to the States. So she actually hasn't even seen uh, any of that from me. Um, and like I've met new friends and made new friends, and it's like this thing that I used to be really good at. or that I used to, like I would show up to a local event just to like, meet new people and hang out. Like speed flying is getting really big, where
What is
you
it?
run up a mountain. They're making these races where you run up a mountain and then you fly down, like on a
Like you?
small paraglider. Yeah. So
All
I
right.
love doing that.
Okay.
And typically I've always been a mountain athlete. So like the run up, I crush. But like meeting new people doing these events, it's been really, really humbling because like I don't win the run up a lot of the time, almost never anymore. Um, and like it's just or it's really difficult for me, and it's just like having to, I don't know what I would do without my faith, man. Because like having to completely change what I have thought I was most proud of, or like what I've literally spent. Like I was the weird kid in high school. Like I've never been drunk. I've never been high. Um, like because I like literally as a young kid, I wanted to be a pro snowboarder and a professional soccer player. And I was like, I didn't even know about drugs or alcohol at that point. And like I ate whatever my mom fed me. As soon as I hit like 14, 15, and I started realizing like I had a lot of endurance potential, literally from like freshman, sophomore year of high school, like I started buying my own food to be healthier. My mom like got me ingredients to make my own granola bars to be healthier. I like didn't touch as much as possible. Like I really tried not to touch anything that I felt like someone could look at that and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna beat him one day." Like I viewed every day that I saw someone else getting drunk, or like after a race they would go party, because that's a big thing with mountain bikers. We like to have fun.
Right.
But I literally had the mindset of that's another day that I'm gonna gain on that person. Like if they spend, like I actually found myself counting the other day prior to this happening, um, between the ages of 14 or 15 years old and 26, uh, I have taken less than 100 days of no exercise out of the like we'll just say 350 times 10. So like out of basically almost 4,000 days, um, less than 100 of those have been like I'm not doing anything today. Um, and it like because lots of the time I do active recovery, so to completely like be shut down, where there have been a few days where I literally have gone out to go run. I run 400 meters, start walking, start crying, walk back home, and I'm like at the beginning, because I went from being the fittest I had been in my life to moving back to the US and quitting a job where I was getting paid very well and supported very well. Um, to then find out that it wasn't the air quality there, it wasn't anything there. Um, it's just something wrong with me. Um, and then to go and spend hours and hours every day, like calling hospitals, trying to get in sooner to try and make world champs. Because world champs was in June, and I was like, I can still do this. Like, I'm so fit, I could take a month off, have a month of training going in, and still probably pop a good one. And so I kept hope. And then as that got closer in like May, and I couldn't get into hospitals quick enough, and when I did, it would just be like, oh, your VO2 max is 58. That's really good. I'm like, it used to be like above 75.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so sometimes like even close to 80. Um, and so, yeah, so just like that complete switch, it really, really changed and has still affects me in like what do I value about myself? Because like I've always been known as the guy who like full on sends it to get what he's going after. Uh, like I don't take no for an answer. Even last year, I had like an infection on the bottom of my foot, which wouldn't go away, and so I'd literally numb it with lidocaine so I could still run. And then because I did that, which was kind of stupid, I gave myself Achilles tendonitis on the other side that wouldn't go away for a while because I was running lopsided because it was so painful. Um, so I just hopped on the bike and hammered and built fitness that way, and like proved to people that as long as you run short distances fast, like you really try and keep up that high quality work as much as you can, and you do the rest on machines and the bike, like you can still be really fast. And I came back the end of last year and had a good like 3 months. And then yeah, this is like locked me out completely from anything. 2 days ago I couldn't even run above like 130 beats per minute.
Jeez.
Uh, and then but yeah, it's up and down. Like some
Yeah.
days I feel really bad, some days I feel all right. So it really messes with like what you value about yourself, I think. And it's really made me uh I don't know, once you taste, I don't know, I honestly don't even know how many people are listening to this, but I hope someone can either relate or maybe get some encouragement from this. But I don't think it's abnormal to feel like you're questioning your value or who you are, when you've spent 10 to 15 years in whatever career that you choose, relentlessly pursuing it and trying to be the best, and then you get a taste of that. Like you get a taste of all that hard work and like it pays off, and you just get a small taste and then it's all gone. It definitely makes you start to question like was that even something I should value? Um, or like am I not, if I'm like am I ever going to get to do it again? And then it's really easy to spiral and be like, well, like I was the best in the world at something, or I was one of the best in the world at this thing. Um, like nothing else, like I don't want to do anything else. Like I want to be the best in the world. That's what I want to be. Not, I don't want to go do anything else. Cause like I was having this conversation with my dad yesterday and I was like, Dad, should I just like stop? Um, because it's been almost 2 years now of just like random things happening where it's not like I'm overtraining. It's not like I'm uh, uh, causing things to happen to myself. It's just like kind of freak things happen and I don't know why. And I've just like pushed through, pushed through, pushed through. It's, I just keep having the conversation with myself of like, if I have a son one day, or a daughter, but for some reason I always think about like young boys because that's what I try and mentor right now. And like when they're going through a hard spot in life and they have something that they really love to do, like what am I going to tell them? Like dad gave up. Uh, like it got too hard, so I just stopped doing what I love. Uh, I don't know. Like I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be the guy who could have made the league. Like, uh, but I also like, man, you got to provide for yourself, right? You got to do something that uh, that you can be proud of. And so I've actually been praying a lot recently that like I don't think that God makes us love things that he that we can't do. Um, but sometimes I do think that like maybe we need to learn lessons or he's pivoting me in a different direction. And so I've changed my prayers a lot recently from like I still ask to 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 be able to do, I still ask to be able to do what I love. Um, but also because like other things don't seem as exciting. Um, I ask for him to like change my heart to like want to be the best in the world at something else. Uh, so we'll see. Sorry, man.
No, dude, I'm sorry you're going through this. I think that definitely one thing that you have to realize is your value. You talk about value. You're valuable to a lot of people, a lot more people than I think you realize. I mean, when we're working out, like as an example, when we're working out here at my house and we have a Deka, we're doing run throughs or whatever. I don't know how many times I've talked about you, you know, and I've watched you race. I've watched you in person. I've watched you. It was either Anaheim or LA, one of the Hyroxes.
Yeah.
And I remember standing there next to you. You were pushing the sled, and I mean, I was surprised. Not that I was surprised. This is kind of off of what we're talking about right now, but I was surprised at how big I thought you were, like how fast you could run. So all of these things, man, it's what, from the outside looking in and watching you and listening to some of the things that you say or some of the things that you post, I always had this feeling that you loved fitness, you loved exercising, you loved racing, you loved competing, and winning was just kind of a byproduct of that. Like winning didn't seem to be it didn't seem to be the motivator, you know, like,
No.
I mean, you don't ever have pictures of yourself really up on like podiums and stuff like that. But anyways, dude, the thing that I've found is staying open-minded. And when these times, well, for me, since we're sharing things, it's like when I got out of prison at 21, and my whole thing has been to get as far away from that person that I was. So it's keep going. And then, so we get to these points, like you're saying, where you start to feel like I'm going backwards, where I've just been on this trajectory of like an uphill, finding out new things, sports and fitness and cycling, and then triathlon and all of these things. I met all these different people, just like you're going to meet all these different people doing these sky runs. Is that what you call it? Fly runs. So
Yeah.
every time that I thought, whether it's been business or whatever, you know, I left a shop, or even if I was making more money than I, you know, thought I would ever make, but it was just because it just didn't feel right. And then I did pivot, and then things always worked out. Or, you know, just being, I don't think that you're a negative person, but not allowing this to drag you down that hole, as hard as it is.
Yeah.
And when you do feel that way, when you feel like you're at your lowest point, you do, it's like there's a plan and, you know, a long-term goal. And sometimes you have to remember that and not get caught up in the moment. And, whether that long-term goal is winning another Hyrox, or the long-term goal is helping somebody win a Hyrox, win their first Hyrox, you know, whatever their goals may be. Your experience and your knowledge, you're going to help a lot of people, man. And then, like you said, even more importantly, the youth that you're mentoring, whether it's a young boy or a young girl, or, you know, whatever it is, the things that you've already put yourself through as far as fitness goes and mental strength, that can help these kids that are trying to find out something about themselves that they're not understanding. You know, they're not understanding these feelings that they're going through, and that it doesn't need to be you know, they're trying to find their self-worth or where they're trying to fit in at, and you're able to guide them just through being like, you know, yeah, it's cool to be the best at something, but it's also cool to be the best competitor in a friendly way also, you know, things like that, things that are building bridges. For me, the fitness thing was a way to, like you talk about flushing out lactate. The fitness was a way to flush out the demons for me. That's it.
100%. Same.
You know, that's it. If I don't exercise, and it doesn't have to be, you know, these things that we feel like we're losing right now, it just has to be 20 minutes, you know, something like that's going to get me to a point where I just feel that energy. And so what, I don't know, like finding what's important. Is it financial? Is it physical? Is it a little bit of both? Or, are going to these races going to pay your bills? Like what's, what, like really like long term life, yeah, I've had to, I have to accept that. And like crit racing, I love crit racing. I don't know if you've ever done crit races. I
Pretty
love it,
fun.
man. But I have helmets hanging up in my garage from when I've crashed and cracked my head and been knocked unconscious and everything. I love it.
Yeah,
But there comes a point where you have to go, what I'm I can be fit, but I don't have to. I've found that feeling just getting up and racing, whether it's a Deka or a Hyrox now. That same like that rush. I don't know if you get it, but I get like this rush just thinking about it, just thinking about getting after it. And it's not quitting. You're not quitting on yourself. You've proven how good you are, and there's a lot of people in your corner, man. That I reached out to you because well, I mean, you've affected me. You've affected me in the way, like you said, just in talking right now and not feeling like alone. You've affected me in that way, just from like the Rocks Life podcast or things that you put up. Um, and I I think as long as you remember that, then and you'll have your that should be enough. I guess is basically what I'm saying. And in the end, what if you go to Amsterdam and you win and you still feel empty? Like what if that
oh
happens?
yeah,
And
I've won. Yeah, it's actually, it's not the racing for me. Um, it's knowing that I'm locked out of my fullest potential. That's what really hurts. Because I would literally never race another day in my life in exchange for feeling like normal Rylan again. Um, like I would be happy with that. Because then I could still fully express what I've worked for, and also, or that's another thing I'm also changing is like I keep having to remind myself, like I say what I've worked for, and in a way I've worked like really hard for what I've been given, but it's still what I'm given. Like I actually, there's this book in the Bible called Job. Basically, this, I don't know how many of you guys have heard of this dude, but basically, he was a rich dude, one of the richest dudes on the planet, gets everything taken from him, and and he definitely like asked God, he's like, why did all this happen? And God's basically like, well, like first of all, it's like I gave it to you, which is really really hard concept in theology to take, but it is true. Like if I believe I'm created, and that I was gifted with these abilities, like the thing with a gift is like they were given to you, and so I mean, I I don't like changing the narrative of like I deserve to feel this way, or I deserve to get better or whatever, or like I worked so hard for this. It's also like, well, like those are just like they're on loan to me anyways. And to be grateful and find gratitude in what I still do have. Like there's been days where it's close to like not being able to run, but I can still run. Um, and that's a huge gift because a lot of people don't have that, right?
right, right,
Some
exactly.
people like there's kids that literally never like they are born a certain way, and they never get to experience what I still get to experience every day. And like it's really hard when you go from feeling like you're on top of the world, or like you have the potential to win like Hyrox Worlds. Like I 100%, I was trying to keep it on the down low and not really say anything, but I was going for it this last year. Um, and to go from that to being like, man, like I'm winded after walking up the stairs,
Hmm.
uh, or like just sometimes laying in bed, like I feel like it's difficult to breathe, or I have. That's like it's a big change to get used to. So I don't discount if anyone's listening to this and they're like, yeah, it's easy to say it could be worse because it really could be. It's also easy to say like it's a gift, so it can be taken away. But so I'm not discounting that at all. But um, I I definitely am trying to be grateful for the other lessons that I get to learn, and also what I still have, because I still do have a lot. My bike got impounded yesterday, so I don't have a motorcycle anymore. I'm trying to get that back today. First time doing that, but yeah, there's still a lot to be grateful for, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It's a weird life is so strange, man.
yeah.
So
What
strange.
what is the potential? Like when you talk about that, when you say you feel like reach the potential, like what is it? What is the peak for you? What is it that you think that you're looking for?
Uh, I want to be able to run again and feel like it's actually my physical limit that's holding me back, or do any sort of workout, not like I can't breathe and I feel like I'm suffocating. Um, that's it's a like I think that would cause an anxious feeling in some people, but for me it's not an anxious feeling. I'm just like it happens to me, and I just kind of slow down and I'm like, okay, this is what I get today. Um, but I know I'm not dying. I know I'm fine. Or at least not dying any faster than I think I normally would. But something's wrong. Like that's the thing that's hard, is like knowing that like my legs don't even get tired anymore. I hardly ever am sore because I just can't run fast enough to make my legs tired anymore. It's
Gotcha.
really strange. It's a very strange feeling. I'm always limited by something in here, is what it feels like. Like I just can't breathe enough in. I'm never really limited by anything else. And like it's scary to be, like on a trail run up in the mountains or mountain biking. Like one time I was mountain biking in Breckenridge and then started to get lightheaded and kind of just felt weird. And obviously everyone thinks, oh, he's in Breckenridge, he's high up in altitude, he's just dizzy because it's altitude. But like I know what that feels like. Like last year I won OCR World Champs at Mammoth, which is also super high up there. Like I know what high altitude feels like. I've been up to almost 20,000 feet actually in South America, on Cotopaxi. I think it's like 19.5 or something. Um, and like I know what that feels like. And I've spent my whole life like racing and training at high altitudes. So to go from like knowing what that feels like with oxygen restriction to being like something is really wrong with me, but nobody knows what it is, and I don't know what it is either. Like that's I want like eventually it'd be nice to let go of that, is what I'm saying. Like to be able to know like okay, I'm working towards like I'm fully healthy again. Like I can actually do stuff. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I
I
don't know how else.
well, I guess like so I appreciate I appreciate your drive and I appreciate your wanting to go after it. The other thing, and I want to see more of it. I'm the first person to say I want to see you out there, dude. I want to see you out there smashing. It's exciting. I love the way you race. But do you ever stop and think about how you've done things in multiple disciplines or multiple sports that people do feel that is the top, that is what they're working for, even just even um, with being specific to one discipline, whether it's mountain biking or OCR or Hyrox or Deka. Like you've done things that high level athletes that specifically work out to get, whether it's a Deca strong record or a Deca mile or a Deca fit or these. I don't know where your time is at Hyrox right now, but I'm sure it's still at least in the top 5 to top 10. But you you've you've almost reached like the pinnacle in these things, and you still want more, which is, again, it's amazing. And I wonder where, where that could be. And I also don't don't want to say ever, I don't want to sound like I'm saying you need to accept that and move on. I'm not saying that
Mm.
at all. But you do have to, kind of realize that you've done a lot at 26, man, and don't be so hard on yourself, and let it you know let things play out. Your knowledge with different, with physical fitness and everything is far superior to mine, but you have to realize that just doing a little bit and kind of maintaining this thing, and hopefully this blows over, um, will be enough, and just find like some kind of satisfaction in that, dude. I hate to see you, this is the first time we've talked, but I hate to see you beating yourself up over this, man. I know that feeling. I know that dark feeling. And there's a lot of people that do. And again, that's where, hopefully people, that's what's the most important thing to me, and is the most important thing about talking to you, is getting people to understand these things. And uh, it's not just getting to Amsterdam. It is getting through daily life. It's getting through, making sure that you're there and you're able to stay present, and recognizing when not only physical things are limiting you, but sometimes mental things. And you have to recognize that these feelings aren't aren't it's not a permanent feeling. It's something in the moment that you you, you can address it, but don't let it um, overcome you to a point where you forget that you do forget that people care about you, and people want to be around you whether you're winning or not. Sorry, I rambled a lot there, dude. But
No, I
um,
appreciate it. I really
uh,
do.
but yeah, sorry. I did want to ask you,
Hmm.
and did you have like early? I meant to ask you this an hour ago in the beginning, but did you have early like heroes or people like say that you looked up to, or um, as you've gotten older? Again, you're still you're young, man. This is so something, I guess, something that I've done over the last 5 years or so. It seems like I've been able to look back on my life and wonder, um, like growing up without a dad, doing all the things that I did, like how did who what instilled anything in me, and then I look to say like a friend that used to take me to baseball practice, that kind of instilled like looking out for other people, or like Cal Ripken Jr. was my favorite baseball player. I don't know if you remember him or not, but he was the one that they played the most consecutive games ever. And was there anybody like that for you that put a drive in you? Was it family, or was it like where did this competitiveness come from? Did you guys compete playing card games or basketball in the driveway, or what how did this come about?
Um, there's a couple answers to that question. The first person that I saw true hard work modeled in, and thankfully I got to experience as a kid, is I definitely have one of the best fathers on the planet, if not the best. And I'm extremely grateful for that, because very early on I saw that sometimes you just have to shut up and do the work. Um, and I also got to see that in my older brother, uh, so that helped as well. Like my older brother, whenever he would decide, he didn't always decide. He actually, sometimes he would, when he was younger, he's much more consistent now, but when he was younger, he would sometimes pinball between different things because he's a young man trying to figure out what he wants to do in life. But I remember watching my older brother, and like whenever he would lock in and do something, he would do it. Like he got heavy into CrossFit, and he would spend all of his free time like eating, studying, and working out specifically for CrossFit. And that was like right before I started trying to pursue things really professionally in high school. Um, so in my middle school years, I got to see him be like that in high school. So that really, like that plus my dad, um, really instilled like okay, if you want something, you go all in on it and you become the best at it. Like that's what you try and do. And then my mom actually is the most consistent person I've ever met. Like she always tries to work out every day. It's non-negotiable. So I grew up with that being normal. So those things were instilled in me. But as far as the desire to be competitive, I don't know if it was because I was just in a house full of boys. There's 5 boys. So I have 4 brothers and 1 sister. I don't really know what it is, but like even talking with my parents and my siblings, like there's just something different about me and always has been, where I am relentless in my competitive nature, and it's actually declined with age. But like my, so I was talking with my mom about like what these health problems could mean for me, and she instantly was like, well, you're going to have to find something else that's fast because everything that you have loved to do in life, you value being fast, efficient, and quick. And like literally moving through space and time quickly is like one of the things I, for some reason, get a euphoric feeling doing,
Mm.
which why I like speed flying. It's why I like mountain biking. It's why I like racing fast or running fast. I don't get much enjoyment from going slow in anything, which sounds like very shallow, and all my
No, no.
yogis are gonna be pissed at me now. They're gonna be like, who is this guy? He thinks he can't slow down, blah blah blah. But it's like it's true. I get a lot of enjoyment from that's why I wanted to be a firefighter, is literally because it was like I can get paid to be really fast at stuff, like to be good at doing stuff fast. That's the most valuable thing. You drive fast, you get there fast, you get people to the hospital fast, you put out fires fast. Like everything is on a clock. Getting ready to go into the ambulance or into the engine is fast. Like that's why I loved it. That's what made me interested. So like I'm looking at becoming a pilot right now, but we'll see how life goes. But yeah, it's in, and I don't want to fly for an airline because the planes are like buses. Like
Right.
I have zero interest in that. The money doesn't matter. It's like obviously I want to make a living, but to me it's like I don't know. I've always been super competitive about racing or going faster than other people. Doesn't matter if it's running, snowboarding, skiing, flying, or yeah, like a Hyrox. I just want to be fast.
Right.
It, and that's just something I was born with. I don't know how to explain that. I don't know
No,
why.
that's why I asked. I was hoping you could tell me. Again, I'm not on
Yeah,
your level, but
yeah,
it's something that there, it is. I try to, I always say I try to have these conversations to find out more about myself as well, in finding out more about you. And
hmm,
it's, it is an interesting thing. And a lot of times I do try to, I've had to try to slow down. I've had to try to, um, I hope this doesn't sound arrogant, but understand that I, it's fine. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. Some people just aren't going to want to work as hard as you. You're going to be surrounded by those people, and it's okay. Like it's
hmm,
okay to to not um, have a goal every day, every week, every year. You know, I think it's very valuable, and I have to personally, I have to keep that,
same.
but it's not a it doesn't mean that somebody's bad. Do you ever look? God, I don't know how to say this without sounding like an a-hole, but
Do you ever look at other people and wonder how they can be happy with their life? Not
yeah,
chasing stuff? Oh yeah, 100%, man. I'm
yeah,
like, I call it the box. So many people live in a box, which is called a house. And then they wake up, and the first thing is they check their little box, which is called a phone. And they spend an hour looking through their box. And then they get into their box, which is a car, and to drive to a box, which is work. And they work in a cubicle, which is another box. And then they drive back in their box home to watch a box called a TV, to then sleep in a box, which is called their bedroom, and repeat the box cycle again. I don't know how, like, Oh, I'm like, I'm wild, man. People know it. Like, it's really funny how I was talking to Dylan Scott when I said I might go to Amsterdam. He hit me up and he's like, "Hey, do you want to share an Airbnb or a hotel room or something?" And then he put underneath, he's like, "That is if you're not sleeping outside in the bushes." And I was like, "Exactly. That's what I'm known for. Like, I hike a volcano 2 days before a race. That's like 17,000 feet. That was in Mexico. Like I slept on this park in Amsterdam. Woke up and a couple's making out on the bench next to me, and I like startle them when I wake up, and I'm like, "Sorry, guys." Like that's just my life. That's how I've lived it. You don't have to be drunk to have fun. You
Right.
don't have to do drugs to have fun. Like I've climbed some cranes building skyscrapers that are 40 feet up and slept up there. So it's like, that's what I do when I travel and race. I'm not there always for the race. Sometimes I'm just there to be super fit and fast, but also just have a good time and show other young men that like, you don't have to go to a club to have fun. I feel like I have so much more fun than pretty much anyone. And I constantly look at other people's lives and I'm like, do you actually enjoy that though? But I think it's because we just love comfort. And I find myself
Yes.
like like that's why I love living in the van, to be honest, is it makes me like, even if I feel like crap, it makes me go outside because if I stay in that tiny space for a long time, I'm like, I can't. It makes me go outside. Whereas if you're in a house and you have AC and heating, it's like, why would I go outside?
Yeah, you're
So,
comfortable. The comfort thing, um, I went through, I did drink a lot. So I was the opposite of you. And yeah, I was drinking a lot every night when I moved well, I grew up in Vegas and then I moved out to California like
mm,
2002 or whatever. And believe it or not, I moved to this little city. Actually, you've been to Big Bear, right? I'm
yeah,
assuming.
love Big
So,
Bear.
so Redlands is basically at the base of Big Bear. So I'm about 45 minutes from Big Bear. Um, but I moved out here and I started partying. It was tattooing and making a bunch of money and partied for about 3 years, smoking cigarettes all day. And one of my best friends, I just started asking him like, why do we do this? Like we could hang out
Hmm.
together and we could drink. Why are we going to the bars? So then I started. This was right about when. So I started going to the gym. I wanted to get back in shape and get
Hmm.
back in. I was 20. I was 23, 24, and CrossFit. One of the guys at LA Fitness said, "Hey, we're going to do this thing at the park, and they're calling it CrossFit." And I was like, "Well, what is this?" Nobody knew CrossFit or what kipping pull-ups or any of that stuff was. Anyways, I was still going to the gym. I'd party all night. I'd go to the gym drunk, smoking cigarettes to get there, but I knew I had to keep doing that.
Hmm.
But the bar was that comfort zone, just like the social aspect of these things, like a coffee shop, or whatever. But I decided that the group runs were going to start being my bar. Getting up and working out with my friends was going to start being that was my bar time now. So then when people were like, "Well, how do you get up at 4:30?" It was like, "Well, how do you stay up until 4:30?" It's the same thing, except I'm doing it on the
Facts.
opposite end. Um, or how do you get up? How do you get up and swim? How do you do? Well, the other thing is or doing the business stuff. Well, I always say I don't watch TV, which is not completely true because I'll watch like the fights. I don't know if you are into jujitsu, but the Craig Jones Invitational this weekend was amazing. Um, but anyways, you can change up your schedule and make like again the workouts became, instead of drinking beers, we were pushing sleds, or we're you can change your environment. And once I did that, that was when all of these doors started opening for me. I started smiling more. I was just better all around, that I didn't even realize what's happening. So
Yeah.
these things, dude, these are the things when what I'm talking about with all of these life experiences that you've had, that if you continue to share them in a genuine way, then people's minds are going to open. Like, well, this dude could have just been a firefighter, but instead he's deciding he's going to go run up a mountain and fly off of it, or whatever. It's not, and that's not crazy, because a lot of people will say, well, that's crazy. And I'm sure your response would be, no, it's crazy to sit on your couch all day and watch TV. That's fucking.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
so that's and you're not, the other thing that I've liked, again, looking from the outside looking in, I don't know you personally. I feel like I know you a lot better now, but you're not about putting this, like, who's going to carry the boats and who's going to do this and who's going to do that.
Recovery days are important, people.
Yeah.
Don't just smash yourself every day. You will lose your gains. Okay,
Yeah.
I've said it.
Yeah. So just, but yeah, man, I feel like I could talk to you all day. And I know you have other things to get going and doing, but I'm not a religious guy, man. I don't go to church. I feel like I'm spiritual in whatever way.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I felt a need to just send you a message and reach out to you and just say, hey man, let's talk. And you were just like, okay, cool, let's do it. And I think, and I'm glad we did. And I hope, and we'll, hopefully do some more, just whatever, just chats or check-ins. But that was my reasoning, was because I've said it a few times, you have so much to offer, man. You have so much to offer besides just winning. And it's easier said than done, keep your head up, keep pushing and doing all that. But just be open. Don't be in, and I hope you're not, but don't be in such a funk that you pass somebody by without saying hi to them. Because the other thing that I've learned is just saying hi to people and starting conversations. Who knows, man? Maybe that's your next, you're going to go surfing with that dude, or you're going to, that's going to be the guy you go ride a bike with, or you go on a walk with instead of doing intervals with. You can, and you find these different perspectives, and then you find more, value in that. And I don't know, man, just stay, you don't seem like a closed-minded type of dude, but just make sure you don't lose that, and keep seeking things out, and they keep coming. Because dude, I'm sorry, I start going on these rants, but my wife's grandpa, he was 94 when he passed away. Mm-hmm. And this dude was, he was a fighter pilot in the World War II. And then he was infantry in the Korean War. And then he worked, there was a Kaiser Steel over here in Fontana. He did all these things, man, his whole life. He ran marathons. And so when I met him, he was in his 80s, and he would hang out. He would have his glass of wine, but he would move. If he had a cloak on and you saw him moving and you didn't know how old he was, you would never know how old he was. There was no labor in getting up and down or whatever. And I always just asked him, what's the goal? What's the key there? How do you do this? And he just said it really was as simple as not slowing down and, keeping your mind strong. Anyways, and what you said earlier about some people can't do it. Some people can't, to be thankful for what we can do. His doctor told him he couldn't go to the gym anymore because it was hard, but he kept going to the gym because he didn't want to die sitting on the couch, right? He didn't.
My guy.
So, so I always kept that in mind, and my wife's other grandparents as well. When they went towards the end of their life, I had put doing an Ironman kind of. I was doing triathlons, but I had stopped. Triathlon training was just getting too much, right, with life, and as they were declining, I just started telling myself, man, if they could have another day to get out and do these things that I can do, they would do it. So I can't take it for granted, and make these things happen. And but yeah, anyways, my wife's grandpa, we were at his house, and he had bought a go-kart. And
Sweet.
dude, this guy,
I love this guy.
he was it to say he was amazing is you can't, you just can't put into words. And the other, God, dude, the other thing is he would say, God bless. Oh, he'd say, God bless him. And he wasn't, he questioned, he was religious, questioned the church and all these things. But
Yeah,
I always
I do
thought
too.
yeah. And I always thought that was just cool to just say, God bless him. And, but anyways, he bought this go-kart and my kids would go over to his house. He built 2 houses with his bare hands too. That's another thing I forgot to.
What a baller.
Yeah, dude. And, he'd come home from work. They lived in the garage while he was building the second house, and he would just continue to build these houses. Anyways, he bought this go-kart because my son, all the kids, all the great grandkids, he just thought it was cool. He loved race cars. He could tell you freaking NASCAR winners back to 1930s and all. It was wild how sharp this man was. Anyways, we started going over there for Sunday dinners. After his wife of 60 years passed away. And every weekend we go over there. He'd ride the go-kart with him, race it around the yard. He had like some dirt in the back, a couple acres. And then he would, after we would leave, he'd always tell us he'd sit out back because his wife's ashes were there. So he'd talk to her. And the last time we went, dude, I have the picture too, but he was in the go-kart, racing the go-kart with my son. We all left, everything was fine, and then he ended up hitting his head, and then that was ultimately what got him. You know, he went to the hospital for a few days, but he always said, you know, I don't want to live. I don't want to. If you got to change my diaper, get me out of here.
Yep.
And you know, so the decision was made there, but it was. So I guess that's, again, I keep going back to it, but there's all of these things that he instilled in us, and he affected everyone to do better. You know, he didn't have to tell people they were lazy pieces of shit. We just knew that because at 94 years old, this man was going strong, and it was because of the things he did every day. You'd show up there and he'd be driving a tractor in the backyard, again, a week or two before, pulling up weeds and trees. But yeah, man, I guess, sorry, again, I get going, but yeah, there's a lot of life left, dude. And just keep, just keep pushing, keep trying to find out what's going on with you, but don't limit yourself to just the physical goals, right? Like, keep your mind strong, keep it I don't know, dude. You know, I'm pretty sure you know what I'm saying here. I think
I understand. Thank you.
And I'm glad we talked, and
Me too.
I'm gonna send you, huh?
I said me too. Me as well.
Yeah. And finish your workouts and all that, and I'll shoot you my number, dude, and you make your way out here in that van. You've got a bush to sleep in out front, and hit some trails, man, or whatever, dude. Take a fishing pole with you. You ever go fishing, man? Just take a fishing pole.
So one of the things I'm doing in my new old age that I found is fly fishing.
I just started too.
No way. Okay. Yeah. So I've been like once, and I suck at it, but or twice. But yeah, I'm working on it. Because the biggest reason is dude, our food industry is so messed up. I don't want farmed fish. I want my own fish. I don't want to feel like I got fish eating their own poop that I'm eating. I just want a fish from a flowing river that's clean-ish.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's yeah, man, I feel like we would have a good time. So where are you at, by the way?
In Redlands. So Redlands is like if this wall was here,
down from Mammoth.
Yeah. Big Bear's right here. Here. And Yeah, so about 45 minutes from there, about an hour away from LA. So if you end
Okay.
up coming out for any of those races or whatever, and you want to stop by, seriously, it's, you know, we would have space for you. So just
Appreciate that.
yeah, man, come hang out. We go, you know, if you keep, especially if you bring your bike or whatever, we'll get some rides in or something easy.
Okay.
But
Sounds good.
yeah, well, cool, man. We'll keep in touch, and I'm gonna keep in touch with you as well. And yeah, you ever, you know, just yeah, dude, I can't stress it enough. If you ever, we just met, but if you need anything or whatever, at any time of day, you need to talk about something, just give me a call. Let me know.
Thanks, brother. I gotta let you go and try and get my
Yes,
bike out of this impound lot. So
go
I
do
gotta
it, dude.
go. I have an
Go do
appointment
it.
actually that I gotta go to. So I'll
All
talk
right,
with you later. Thanks
all
for the
right, man.
time, man.
Have a great day.
See ya.